Hey there, this is Ethan, and in this video I want to go over what my experience has been meditating 1 hour every single day for an entire year. Now real quick, in light of my last video, I thought it would be appropriate to go on ahead and give my background experience meditating. Where am I coming from when it comes to meditating, and what is it that do I have anything of value to say when it comes to meditation, and basically give the audience, you guys, some background information from where I'm coming from. So if you haven't checked that video out, you should totally check that video out. I will leave a little description, or the what are those even called? You can tell I'm new to YouTube. A link. I will leave a link in this video so if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But basically I go over what I find to be the most significant point when it comes to meditating, what the primary purpose of meditation is, what it is, what my primary purpose that I have found when it comes to meditating, and what I think that the majority of people would benefit from. There's something about sitting and doing absolutely nothing and just being with yourself for hours on end that really changes your relationship to the self. It changes your relationship to life, and it can really radically transform the way you experience everything. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. The reason that I got into meditation in the first place was that I was going through a lot of anger, probably roughly 2 years ago or so. I haven't been doing the hour a day for quite that long. I started out doing 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but really what my motivation was to get a handle on my anger. I felt like I was just a very angry individual. I had a lot of resentment towards the outside world. I had a lot of resentment towards myself for not being good enough. I felt like everywhere I looked, there was someone that was better than me. At school, someone was better at me, at sports, at socializing, at having good relationships, having friends, everything. I just felt like I wasn't adequate enough. And I think that this type of relationship with myself, this sort of self-deprecating negativity towards myself, really was starting to eat away at both not only how I experienced life at large, but it was also eating away at my relationships. I would lash out at other people, I would lash out at myself, and it was just a very unhealthy cycle. Now initially, I thought about, well, I could go to a therapist, I could go maybe take some sort of medication to help with it, or whatever. I didn't know, but I really didn't like that idea of having to seek external help. I felt like if it was my anger, at some level I was gonna have to be the one responsible for dealing with it. And I had been Googling around, and of course meditation with its myriad of benefits pops up into somewhere along the line, and I just said, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. I don't have anything else to lose. What I've been doing isn't working. For some reason, me telling myself don't be angry did not help the anger, and sometimes it felt like it made the anger worse. So I just felt like, I have nothing to lose, I'll give it a shot. So I started meditating 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and 20 minutes, and eventually I felt like the results were so positive that I increased it to an hour, and I've been doing an hour for over a year now, realistically. And on that line, that's one of the biggest benefits I've received, and I think a lot of people would receive, is that your relationship to negative emotions will transform when you start to meditate. What I learned was that when we want to deal with our negative emotions, we cannot repress them. And that's what I was ending up doing with my anger, was that I would get really, really angry and really, really frustrated, and then I would think, but I'm not supposed to be angry, I'm not supposed to be frustrated, and so I would try to repress it. But what that would end up doing when I tried to repress and just get rid of the anger, brute force my way to getting rid of it, was that it would just basically get drilled into my subconscious mind, and it wouldn't go anywhere, and then it would manifest itself back out into my behaviors in very subtle and sneaky ways, sometimes not so sneaky ways. But when we're trying to deal with negative emotions, we actually have to observe the negative emotions. We have to lean into them. So if I'm feeling angry, rather than repressing the anger, I actually have to feel the anger in its fullest, to its fullest extent. So you take the mindset that it's not that I am angry, it's that I am experiencing anger. So when we set up this dynamic where we are no longer the one that is angry, but instead we're just observing anger, not only does it allow us to fully feel the anger without being attached to it, but it allows the anger's energy to play out and eventually dissipate. So rather than drilling it back down with repression, we have to actually lean into those negative emotions and release them. And that's what you do when you meditate. When you're meditating, you're not supposed to do anything for, let's say, an hour. Well, if negative emotions come up, you automatically have to take the role of the observer. Another thing that meditation has done is it's increased my ability to focus dramatically. You know, I didn't used to think that focus was something that we could increase. I thought it was sort of just a genetic trait that some people were really lucky that they had a lot of focus and other people weren't so lucky. And then some people were so unlucky that they had to take medication such as, you know, Adderall for their ADHD to be able to focus. And while I do think there's legitimate reasons to take medication such as Adderall for people, I think for the vast majority of us, just sitting down and practicing meditation, whether it's for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or up to an hour, you're gonna experience increased ability to focus. Focus is not something that is purely genetic, but in fact, it's something that we can train ourselves to get better at. And we can eventually reach levels of focus that are almost like unimaginable. I've had moments when I'm meditating where, for whatever reason, my mind just decides to shut up and I enter a flow state with my breath. And I'm literally just blissed out in the moment following my breath. And it's not really something I can communicate very well with words, the significance of it, but all I can tell you is that the more that you meditate, and especially when you start getting to these really long amounts, like an hour at a time, you will eventually experience flow states and levels of focus that are like you would never think you'd be able to achieve with something as boring as just breathing. But nonetheless, you can do that. What this has allowed me to do is it's allowed me to experience life as almost just this walking flow state. When I am at my job, or if I'm walking in a park, or if I'm cooking dinner or cleaning dishes or whatever, showering even, I'm able to enter flow states with those day-to-day activities, and it creates this much more rich experience of life. And if you guys don't know what a flow state is, it's basically an experience where you are so focused that your sense of self starts to get lower, your mind is completely shut off, and you are just locked into the present moment. So being able to experience flow with wherever I am in life, I mean, that is a very, very significant, powerful tool. And it's beautiful. It makes life just radically more rich. That's the best way I can describe it, is it's just a richer, fuller experience when I'm able to be focused in the present moment. And meditating for an hour, it definitely has taught me how to do that. Another thing that meditating has done is that it's allowed me to be more aware. Okay, it's allowed me to be more aware and grow my awareness to levels that, again, I didn't think were possible. I didn't normally think of awareness as being something that you could increase. That idea didn't really make sense to me. Even the concept of awareness still doesn't exactly make sense to me. It's something that I contemplate pretty heavily a lot, but I think for most people, we kind of understand what awareness is. Like, you're aware of your computer screen right now, or your phone, whatever you're watching this on. I'm aware of the camera that I'm talking to, but imagine being able to take that awareness and then to just expand it, like, to infinity. That's eventually what you're going to be able to do when you meditate for long periods of time, is to expand your awareness to just absolutely ineffable levels that words cannot really do justice to capture just how magical and quasi-mystical that state of consciousness really is. So when your awareness expands like that, it's literally almost as if colors are brighter and sounds are cleaner and crisper, smells feel fuller, tastes are richer. Everything just has an extra spice to it. And life begins to take on this added element of magnificence, really is a good word for it. Even though, like, meditation, when you meditate, it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies when you sit down. Like, sometimes it's going to be really boring. The long-term effect on your conscious day-to-day experience is that your consciousness does start to transform. You really do start to experience life differently. And that's exactly what I've experienced. And the last thing that I want to end you guys with, I think this is one of the most significant points, is that meditation has taught me so much about happiness. I didn't really have much opinions on happiness before I started meditating. Like, I didn't really understand what it was. I felt like I was a happy individual. You know, if someone asked me, hey, are you happy? I would think, you know, for the most part, yes, I'm happy, except for the whole anger thing that I was dealing with. But I mean, for the most part, I was happy, but I didn't really understand what happiness was. And meditation and meditating for an hour at a time has taught me where happiness really derives from. And happiness derives from just being, your sense of existence itself. That's where happiness really, realistically, is derived from. I can't really use words to explain or rationalize or argue with somebody of why this is the case. Someone could tell me like, oh, happiness is just a brain chemical, or oh, happiness is this, happiness is that. And I'm not really like, I'm not looking for a dictionary definition of happiness. I'm not looking for a scientific explanation of happiness. I'm looking for happiness like in my direct experience, like in my day-to-day experience, not in a book, not in a sentence, not in a word or words, but what is happiness like in my experience? And happiness derives from the essence of our being. So being with the moment, whatever moment you're in, accepting it openly and fully is what allows us to experience happiness. And this is something that is so fundamental, and I actually want to talk more about in another video, because I think this is such a radical idea of happiness, but it's so fundamental to our experience, and it's one of the universal features that I think pretty much everyone wants to have, which is happiness. But if we can manage to find happiness with just sitting on a cushion doing nothing for an hour, we will be able to find happiness with our day-to-day experience of life. So all I can tell you is you're gonna have to just trust me. You can either trust me or you don't have to, but happiness is derived from being, just being, doing nothing. And if we can find happiness there, it's game over, dude. You got the skeleton key to life, man. Like, you don't have to do anything. You could just sit around all day, be a hobo, and be happy. But maybe don't be a hobo if you don't want to. So yeah. The last thing that I want to end this video with is just kind of a warning or a reminder, I suppose, which is that meditation for an hour a day, it's not easy. It has moments where it can get pretty grueling, very boring, and sometimes very hard to stay focused and steady if, for example, you start dealing with some like repressed traumas that have happened like in the past or recently even. Things start to surface. When you sit still like that, your mind starts to face things that you didn't want to have to face. So you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready. You have to be fearless enough to face the boredom, to face the past trauma, to face the negative emotions, because it inevitably will come up, especially on these longer sits. You also have to have a strong desire to actually transform the way you experience life. I mean, meditating for an hour, the first thing that's gonna go is your motivation to do this. It's not easy, it's not a walk in the park, and you're not gonna really experience the significant benefits of this practice, I would say, until at least 6 months, okay? So you have to recognize that if you're trying to do this at this scale, you have to at least give yourself 6 months. That's what I told myself when I was starting out. I said to myself, you know what? The first 3 months, that's just building the habit. It takes 90 days to build a habit, or at least that's what Google told me, I think. So the first 3 months are just focused on building the habit of an hour. Next 3 months is just giving it enough time to solidify and actually show me what it's capable of doing. And I promise that if you can commit to an hour a day, your life will become so much fuller and so much richer. But it's gonna take a lot of work to get there. It's gonna take a lot of discipline. So you have to have the desire, for one, to create this conscious change in your day-to-day experience, but two, like I said in my last video, to understand yourself at a deeper level. There's really no other greater cause in life except to understand who you are authentically, like who you really are. Not what society told you you are, not what your parents told you who you are, not what your religion said, not what science says, not what your friends say. None of that. I mean you at your absolute existential level. So you have to have a strong desire to really understand these things, to really transform the way you experience life at large. And if you can do that, you will absolutely see benefit from meditating, especially at this scale. I have experienced these benefits meditating at this scale, and even though It fucking sucks sometimes. Like, it really, it's like hard sometimes. You'll notice that eventually you start having more and more sits where your experience is no longer boring and difficult, but rather extremely rich and fulfilling. And sometimes you'll notice that at a given course of day, your meditation practice for that 1 hour was the most fulfilling and significant thing that you did for the entire day, which I know sounds kind of radical, but I can only speak from my own experience, and that's what I've experienced. So, and it seems that the people that I've talked to when they meditate, or other people that I've talked to that are into meditation, that do it regularly, that do it at this scale, have reported similar things. So I'll go ahead and leave it there, you guys. I hope that whoever is watching this video, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I would encourage everyone to give it a shot. Again, 6 months, man. Like, that's really the timeline you need to see the full impact of what meditating for an hour has to offer. But if you're not going to do it for an hour, that's totally fine. You will still find benefit doing it 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Any amount is better than none. That's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you like the style of content, things like meditation, philosophy, psychology, just understanding life at a deeper level, exploring big picture questions, hit that subscribe button. There's so much that I want to talk about, so many more crazy things I want to discuss. So I'll go ahead and end it here. Oh, wait, no. Last thing, please comment. Please comment. I know that some of you out there that are watching this have meditated before. I want to hear your feedback. I want to start a discussion. And yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time.